Hello, I'm sorry, I will not be sitting down. I would rather stand. Okay, so hello. I'm Ashley Tyson, and obviously, I'm a part of the St. Mark's Youth Group. What I want to talk to you about today is boldness. Boldness comes in many forms. For instance, it could be a junior at Carmel High School named Ashley being bold and speaking in front of a congregation of people, of which the vast majority are older and therefore wiser in a different way than her. Maybe you caught on that that was not hypothetical at all. Now, at the end of my little talk, you don't need to remember my name or my story, but I do want you to remember what I say about boldness. Boldness isn't imposing our views on others. It's about overcoming our own fears and putting ourselves out there, generally taking a risk in doing so. But what I want to remind you is that risk is the acceptance of potential risks, opposed to recklessness, which is the ignorance or naivety of consequences. With that being said, being bold doesn't mean you're not unsure or nervous. As you can tell, I might be a little bit nervous. In some cases, being bold means faking it until you make it. I had to fake some of my confidence, my boldness last summer. Last summer, I went to work camp. Dawn kind of told you what it was already, but it's basically where our youth group has the opportunity to go to a certain city for a week and meet up with other churches. We help serve the community, mostly local homeowners, aka residents, in need. We paint the insides of their houses, the outsides of their houses. We help build wheelchair ramps, basically anything that they need. Last summer was my first work camp. To put this in perspective for you, I had been going to St. Mark's and the youth group for barely 6 months when I decided I should go to work camp. I was a bit ambitious. Basically, I was just cementing all of my connections with these wonderful people in my youth group, and I was really getting comfortable talking about religion and God only with these people. So going to work camp and talking to new people, not good. So basically, the kicker of work camp is that they split up youth groups, and they put you into crews of like 5 or 6 people that you're going to do your community service with. And basically, you have a 2% chance of being with someone you know. I was not in that 2%, to my dismay. And so on the first night, we met our groups. I was immediately nervous. There were 2 super tall guys, like super tall that like I have to look up to talk to. Interesting. And then we have 2 girls who were basically already best friends, so somehow they got in that 2%. And basically, I found out that they had all been going to church since they were in diapers. And I was just thinking, great, I get to admit all over again that I don't know it all, and that I have such a long way to go about learning about religion. Now, for me, I was unsure and nervous about work camp and religion, but for you, this could be unsureness about a new job, a new school, or neighborhood. Done with that one. Back to me. So these feelings were basically building up, and I don't have an issue really talking to people, but I knew that I would have to open about myself, my past, and my lack of knowledge on religion to strangers. As I've been saying, that's not fun. So I decided to smile, and I awkward. Basically, what happened is that I smiled, and I decided that the worst that could happen is they ignore me for the whole week, and then I decided that the consequences were pretty small compared to death, so I went for it. And they ended up talking to me too, and they asked me questions, and they really helped me, but I was not done being bold yet. The next morning, I met my resident, the person we'd be helping. For those of you who have helped out at IHN, you probably will understand what I'm about to say best. I struggled to relate to my resident. She was really reluctant to accept help. She didn't want to share, and after talking to her one-on-one, I had to say something. I was constantly nervous that I was going to offend her, and I was walking on eggshells. That's nervous, that's really, really awkward when you're inside someone's house for 6 hours a day for an entire week. Not good to be on eggshells. So I talked to her, and I told her, hey, I could never understand you or your situation fully, but I want to help you and not offend you. That was my big, bold moment. Talking to a woman that I didn't know about my opinion on something that I didn't know how she would take it. Thankfully, again, she was really nice and understanding about it, and it led to a good week. Overall, you don't have to be 100% confident or an expert to be bold. In the end, you just need to be a forward person. Be safe, be happy, be bold. That's all.
Good morning again. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm about to fall. Okay. So I was asked to talk, well, not asked, actually, I picked to talk about hope. And so I wanted to, well, okay, actually, sorry, rewind. My name is Anna. I am a senior at Carmel High School. There we go, covered. Okay. I wanted to start off with a question. What is hope? I had to kind of go through this whole question in my mind while I was figuring out what am I going to talk about. So for some, it's your stereotypical sayings. It's finding the light at the end of the tunnel, finding that silver lining, and, looking on the bright side. For me, in the words of my father, it's the next 4 years of my life. In the words of Emily Dickinson, hope is the thing with feathers that perches on your soul and sings a tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So haven't we all gone through a storm in our life? Aren't we all looking for a home? The one thing I've taken out of the college decision process is that it's not all hip and hurrah, unfortunately. You visit all these colleges, and you assess them based on what matters to you. And even when you know the right one for you, there's still all these factors you have to consider. Whether you see yourself there, whether you can consider yourself living there for 4 years and developing as a person, the financial aid you receive, and whether the department of your major is any good, where you will start your foundation for your career and for your life. Those are all things you have to consider, and there's so many more. If you want a list, just come talk to me. It's been the last 2 years of my life. I knew right from the moment that I stepped on Hope College's campus that was where I was supposed to be. That saying, that does not mean I was not nervous or skeptical walking onto that campus, because I had never been there. And that's a school of 3,000 kids-ish, and my high school is 5,000. It's a pretty significant drop. So that made me a little nervous. But I stepped right through those chapel doors, and I heard the Hope College rendition of King of My Heart, which we sing in the current a lot, and I knew exactly where I was supposed to be. Even though I had fallen in love with the school, I still had a few roadblocks in my way. College itself is not in any way cheap, as most of you probably know. And so I took the SAT 5 times, which is slightly above average, to try to raise my scholarship money. And each time I failed to get my score, I started to obsess over getting the right score. And I started to let my SAT score define who I was. And so I had to keep telling myself that I was more than just a score on paper, that I was more than that test I took. I was more than all the prep work I did. However, each time I told myself, I started to believe myself a little less. I remember going to my dark place in December when I failed to get the score I wanted again, and I knew that was going to be the last time I could take the SAT anymore. And so I promised myself all through that day that I would not go on College Board to check if my score had been posted, because obviously from the 4 past times that I had taken it, I knew when it was going to be posted, and it was not at 2 o'clock. But after I got off work that night, I was pulling into my driveway, and I took a look at my phone screen, and my whole mood and my demeanor just deflated. Not a fun time. And I knew that hope was only going to be a small possibility now. I felt tears come to my eyes, and I just kind of wondered why, this is like where I want to go. Like, why? I had given this my all, my everything. I put hours upon hours of work into this test that was going to somehow get me to the college I wanted to go to. And yet I still was not enough. And I just wondered why. But as I sat in my car, I thought about the question that had been on my mind throughout the months prior to that. And I realized that if hope was where I was called to go, and I knew that was where God wanted me to be, then wouldn't he make it happen? Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." God doesn't disappoint. He does not disappoint. He doesn't give up. There's a path, a plan, a guide to what we're going to do. He's right there with us. He is guiding us every step of the way. I could not have gotten through this process without him walking right beside me, telling me to keep my head up and hold on to that little piece of hope in my heart that I had left. He was there. He never left me and told me it was someone else's job to take care of me. He never left. He always had time for me. He always has time for everyone. That's how much he loves us. He stayed right there. He was there in my mom, who never gives up on me or my dreams. He was there in my dad, who always sees the best in me and pushes me to go for what I want. He was there in my sister, who is my biggest cheerleader and probably wanted hope for me more than I did. He was there in my friends, who always checked up on me, telling me hope is where I belong, so I shouldn't worry about it. He was there in Don Broad, who always checked up on me, not just in my decision itself, but where I was mentally and spiritually and how I was doing, not just had I decided. God gave me all these incredible people in my life to walk right beside me and remind me that I'm worth it. God will never give up on me, or he never did, and he's never going to give up on you. The thing is, God puts all of these incredible people in our lives who know us and love us to remind us that we aren't alone in any decision or situation or anything that life throws at us. When we're clouded by darkness, God puts those people in our lives to bring us into the light and give us a new perspective. That's the great thing about people. They help you see things that you can't yourself. So, whatever darkness is consuming your life right now, or any situation you find yourself in, I challenge you to look for God's light, whether you find it right away, or you have to dig through the dirt a little to find it. I also challenge you to think of the people who have had an impact on your life and who have gotten you out of your darkness, and let them know, because it is really humbling to think about the people who have impacted your life so much and who have given so much to you. And as Christians, we're called to give, so we give back to the people who have given us so much or who don't have as much. And so my story does have a happy ending. Thank you. My parents and I, we decided to make it work, and I am so excited to attend Hope College for the next 4 years of my life. I'm beyond excited. It was a long journey, but I have learned 2 things from this process. 1, God is the thing with feathers perching on your soul, telling you to keep going. And God is the hope.
Hi, I'm Brooke Rosencrantz. I'm a freshman at Lawrence North High School. Those of you who knew me before the spring retreat of 2017 knew that I was a really shy person. I wouldn't start conversations unless someone started them with me first. Even in those conversations, I wouldn't say much. When I first started coming to this church, I didn't have many friends, or actually really any. I didn't know anyone in the church, so I felt really excluded. the one thing that made me feel really welcome and really included with everyone was the retreats we go on twice a year. And on the spring retreat of 2017, my sister and I were driving to the retreat place, and at one of the stops, there's cross traffic that goes above 50 miles an hour. And we stopped and looked both ways multiple times, and when we pulled out, I looked over to my right and yelled my sister's name a couple of times. And they hit us really hard. And Caitlin stopped crying. And after being at the scene for a while, Don Broad came over to me and he said he heard from a little birdie that I still wanted to go to retreat later that night. And I instantly got really happy. And after going to the doctor and getting checked and made sure we were okay, we went, and Don and Johnny introduced us and said, "Look who's in the house." And everyone instantly surrounded us. Even though they barely knew us, they surrounded us with hugs and making sure we were okay. And at that car accident, God took his chance that he got, and he transformed me and my relationships with every single one of these youth group members up here and back there. And he also transformed who I was today and who I am now. He made me so much more outgoing with this church and so much more included with them, and I couldn't ask for it any other way.